This is a Main Hustle Media podcast. Main Hustle Media podcasts are recorded on the ancestral lands of the Chumash, Tongva, Hohokam, and Yucateco Maya people, and we wish to pay our respects to the people of those nations, both past and present. Hey y'all, welcome to Queer and Far Podcast, a travel podcast from a couple of queer femmes, providing tips and resources to travel safely while Black, brown, queer, disabled, and from any marginalized group and intersection in between. I am one of your co-hosts, Senor Tia, Sharmane Fury, aka the Blazing Blurred, and I am with my
sister from another Mr. Shenanigans, aka the noob of the podcast. Hello, internets, or hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hola. So it'll be a year since we released our first episode in August.
I did not know that. Has it really been a year?
Yeah, we released our first episode in August.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we also gone slow. We've taken breaks and we haven't done, but it's almost a year. At some point, you'll have to not be a noob.
Oh.
Or you can say a noob.
I think I'm gonna die a noob. Anyway,
and 5 years from now.
I still don't know
what, I just show up.
I'm just hoping people will walk up on the street and be like, "Hola, noob." And I'm like,
"Hola, noob."
Hi.
That's funny.
It was the hair that gave me away.
Start going to travel-y thingies, and people do happen to encounter. You'd be like, "Hola, noob."
So, internets, we have an interesting episode for you today. We are going to be talking about the zany life of Maney.
Yep.
Signing a contract for her first rental home in Merida.
Look, I'm learning so much, and again, shouting out the expat and groups and stuff like that I'm in. I've already gotten a hint of some of this stuff, but once it's so different once you're actually in there, doing it yourself. It feels so crazy official in a way that it doesn't feel in the US, that you're just, and yet I think it's also easier to get out of if you need to. Right. So as we mentioned on our last episode, I had found a house and I put a deposit down to hold the listing, basically to give the landlord an incentive to pull the offer off the internet. Mm-hmm. And not to show it anymore while they finished up a few repairs and some cleanings and things like that. So it'd be ready when I moved in. And that was 18 days from the date we put the deposit down to the day that May 1st popped. Or actually, I think because our appointment got delayed a few days, so it's 21 days or something. But on May 3rd, we signed a lease to our first home here in Merida. We're in a northern, neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, and we have a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. That was a creepy looking bug. Give me 1 second.
Bug. Oh, internets, we are dealing with the tropics, and those come with bugs, large bugs.
Yeah, every now and then I'll just leave this one in. Every now and then there's a bug that kind of looks like a bug you're familiar with, but it's got a special Yucatan flair. And I think that was just a cockroach, but I don't know. I didn't find it. It disappeared, which is another reason why I think it might have been a cockroach. I'll find it. You just got to get used to random. We had this huge beetle the other day. We've had geckos and stuff, lizards like crazy. And I'm more of a lizard person than I am a bug person anyway. So I see a lizard and I'm like, ooh, a little baby lizard. And then I go, oh no, my cats might hurt the lizard.
Right.
But when I see the beetles and the cockroaches, I'm like, God damn. I'm still dealing with Texas trauma, Houston trauma in particular for the cockroaches that we had in Houston.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it was in Houston. It was pretty bad. And you could, it was that was with me having regular treatment. Mm-hmm. That's how bad that place was. But I'm not in Houston anymore. Moving on. I'm in Merida. I am in a lovely little neighborhood in the outskirts of Merida in the northern part of the city in a 3-bedroom, 3-bath house with a pool that is filled by cenote water. The cenotes being the underwater cave, swimming hole, freshwater, limestone.
And when we went to Chichen Itza, we learned from a Maya guide that cenote means mouth.
It means mouth. It means like earth mouth.
Earth mouth.
Earth mouth. So yeah, I'm getting water in my pool from a nearby cenote. So my water is fresh water.
That's
I
so
have
cool.
swam in it already, and it's pretty lovely. And it's actually kind of a larger pool than I remember it being when I first got, like the first time I
It
saw
must
it.
have just been the angle, because when you had it like that, I was like, "Oh, that is big."
That's what she said.
It's quite big.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely bigger than the one we have here at the Airbnb, which you did
Right.
see. You know, it's like
a
a little bit deeper, a little bit wider, a little bit longer.
That's what she said.
And yeah, the house is actually like huge. That's the other thing, is the house seems way bigger now that I'm in it than
Okay. Well,
than it was.
Just looking at the pictures, right?
Yeah. But so we signed the lease on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday, May 3rd, or 3 de Mayo. And the process to do this is so different from what we would experience in the US. Your leases in Mexico have to be like signed off through the government.
Right.
So you do have to go to a law office to sign your leases. And in our case, we had a translator who was the person who helped find me the house.
Pause. And the reason why it has to go through the government is because we are not citizens, right?
No, actually, I think regular citizens have to do it too.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we'll look more into that. But yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah. So I partnered up with someone that I was recommended to in one of the expat groups that I'm in, Brothers and Sisters of Merida in particular. And this person had worked with this person to find a house, and they found a lovely house and everything. And also that person's been helping her set up services. So she recommended her to the group, and she was like, she's been so helpful to me. Check her out. So while you were still here in town, I reached out to her. And she started looking for places for us, and she found this home. Now, she works with a real estate agent who is a licensed real estate agent here in Merida.
Okay.
And so it's really what I think happened, because nobody explains it to me.
Okay.
I think that her having the partner that is a real estate agent, I think she gets some kind of payment from him. You know, if she brings a client.
Oh, okay. Well, no, that makes sense.
That makes sense, right? Because we never talked about money. Like at no point did we ever talk about money, about her and I exchanging money. So she found the listing through her real estate agent, Jose. Jose listed, I think, on behalf of the landlord, this place possibly, and that's probably how it went down. And so it was me and Tree, the translator, Vera, the landlord, Karin, and Jose, the real estate agent, and the lawyer.
Okay.
And so we're all inside the room, and the lawyer proceeds to read. And as I mentioned last time, your contracts are always in Spanish, because Spanish is a natural language.
Right.
Even if they account for Americans, it's not going to be in English, unlike in the US where you could get a contract in Spanish or in English. So the lawyer would proceed to read a section, and then the translator would say, okay, this is basically what this section means, versus a word for word translation back and forth.
Okay.
And then we would go through that. And if there was any questions in each section, she would ask the landlord would answer, or the real estate agent would answer, and then she would translate, or the lawyer would answer. And it kind of went back and forth like that throughout the whole thing. And so we got down to a few questions that I wanted to make sure of as a foreigner signing a lease in another country. Some of the things had to do with like, what am I responsible for versus what the landlord is responsible for. And pretty much you're responsible for everything once you take possession of the home, for the most part. In some cases, some services might stay in the landlord's name. And so she would still require you to pay for it. But she basically granted me access to her logins.
Oh.
Yeah, for like the water service and the trash service and the electricity. So I get the app on my phone, but I log in using the information that is available from her account.
That is very interesting, because in some other research that I've done and talking with some other people and some other channels that I watch, that I guess it really is different, because some people, they have to go get their own, and maybe it's different, like, because they've been there longer.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
she offered, like in some cases, like say the internet, she offered, do you want to set up your own, or do you want to take over the one that I have? in the case of the electricity, the trash service, and the water service, there is an account associated with the house that is in her name. And then I have an app where I just had to put the account number in, and then I put my own login information in, but it's still her
underneath.
name. It's still, everything's still under her. And so my whole burden is that I pay it on time.
Okay.
And what's different here is like electricity you pay every 2 months, water you pay every 1 month. And the trash, she prepaid the trash through the rest of the year, through 2023. So I don't have to start paying her extra for the trash until January of 2024. And then I have to start paying her for the trash.
Is it very similar to how it was when I was there, where the trash is just in a bag and we put it outside, so there's no can?
There's no can.
Are you staying in a community?
It's not a closed community. There are gated communities nearby and stuff like that. Mine is not a closed community, but it is like very like houses and like designs across the board or whatever. So in my case, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, or martes, jueves, and sábado are trash days. So I just have to put that out front of the house.
Okay.
Basura, Dia de Basura. And so 3 days a week, I just have to put trash out there. So the services, so like she prepaid the trash for all of 2023. And then she also preloaded the gas tank, which is up on the roof of the house for cooking gas, of like 500 pesos or something worth. So if and when I run out, I can call the place and say, can you come back and give me another 500 pesos? But I probably won't need it for a long time because I'm probably not going to cook that much to empty out.
Especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
But because it's only for cooking, it doesn't heat the water.
It doesn't heat anything else because I have a water heater in the back.
Okay.
And so like she told me, don't worry about trash. And that was before we signed the lease. When we were in the process of signing the lease, they explained the trash is prepaid by the year. So I don't have to pay her anything extra. But when January comes, that's when I start paying monthly for the trash pickup.
Online.
I assume so because I have the app for electricity and water. So she'll probably give me the app when the time comes for trash too. So that was one of the times where we're like reading and pause, ask some questions, get some clarification. And then the next one that I paused for, it had to do with if you have to vacate the lease early, which was inside the Yeah. And so I just needed clarification because the way it read, because I got the document a couple of days earlier and I ran it through Google Translate so that I could get an idea. And for the most part, it was a pretty good translation, I think. There's just a few words there's a few legal terms in Spanish that don't have
translate in English. Yeah.
And so in those cases, it would double up a word.
Oh.
To indicate like, I don't know. So what I was reading from the English translation was that if you have to leave it early, you pay 1,900 pesos, or 19,000 pesos, which is about $1,000, which is about what I pay for rent to leave early. And I saw no other penalties. It's like you have a lease for 12 months, but you kind of can leave it if you have to. And so I asked, I'm like, just for clarification, because it's not like I'm thinking I'm going to leave anytime soon, but
you're worried
because I'm a foreigner, I don't get approved to stay in Mexico or something else happens, whatever, what happens? And she says that because I had put forward a heavier deposit, because I am a foreigner, she would just take 1 month's rent worth of deposit and pull that out. And that would be what she keeps. So that would cover the month that it would take for her to clean and process the house to get it ready for the next person. And then the rest of my deposit minus whatever things they need to repair, like if my cat's damaged something or whatever, that will be removed and then they'll send everything back. Now, my whole question is, I don't know how I'm going to get it sent back because I don't know how that works with Mexico and American banks and stuff like that. But even if I had to sacrifice the whole deposit to break the lease early,
right?
I'm mentally prepared for that possibility if that were to happen. But she seems to have the intention that like you'll get, and it says it in writing in the contract, minus that month's worth and any damages, you would get everything else back.
So utility wise, basically how it would be anywhere, right? You have to worry about trash, water,
Water, electricity,
electricity, internet,
internet.
and then a pool cleaner.
So I can go with my own pool cleaner, or I can use the one that she had been already using. And so I just need to set that up with her. I have asked for cost about it. And the problem with asking about cost that is so vague with them is that they'll say, well, it depends on how often you use it. And I was like, well, can you give me an idea how much you have spent already? And they're like, well, it's different because it was vacant for a little while. So I couldn't really get like a hard answer.
Mm-hmm.
And it like that happened across the board. Like, how much does trash cost? You don't have to worry about trash until January. Okay, but when January comes, I want to be prepared for how much, and be like, well, it depends on what it might be by that point. Okay. Electricity, it depends on how often you run the ACs. The people who were here before you ran all the ACs all day long, and they paid a lot of money. Okay, what is a lot of money here? Like, what does that mean here? We're like, oh, I don't know. Okay, so like, it's hard to nail that stuff down. And a lot of groups did warn about, like, make sure they tell you the exact amount or a rough estimate. And so I kept asking, but like, that was the best I can get. I was always getting that answer. So I did get to see the most recent bill. So like the last uh
Electricity,
I'm trying
water.
to think which one it was. I have them still. They're at the house, but I'm at the Airbnb today, so I don't remember. But one of them was like 89 pesos for whatever it was, and the other one was like 198 pesos. That's penny. That's nothing.
But that the house is empty.
But the house has been empty, and the only time it's been turned on is when someone's there cleaning or repairing something. So she just showed me that it was paid to zero balance, so that I was starting from scratch that day, basically. So I still don't really have a good idea.
So we're going to be 2 months in. We're going to be talking about your first, like,
what it looks like.
bill.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And, that's when I realized how big the house was, because I did stay there one night by myself, and I turned on the AC in the living room area and in the master bedroom. And the living room is so big that at one point I was like, oh shit, do I ever want to turn it on? Because the living room is an open concept. It spans the kitchen, the dining room, and the living room. And I was like, oh. So I ended up like turning it off at one point, just putting the fans on and leaving the AC on in the bedroom so that it'd be nice and cool when I got in there. And then I just turned the ACs off on everywhere and put the fans on and opened things up to let the breeze come through. So one thing I may ask to get done is to have a screen door. I don't know if that's common here, but she kept saying, just open the front door whenever you want a good breeze. And you do. As soon as you open the front door, the breeze gets really good, but there's no screen, and I have cats. I'm not just going to leave my front door open. So I may ask if it's possible to get a screen door put on the front, because in the front bedroom, when I have those windows open, the breeze crosses the kitchen side.
So the cross breeze helps cool things down.
Keeps it nice and cool. Because the breezes here at night are nice and cool.
Because this is May.
Mm-hmm.
And May is the hottest time of the year.
It's supposed to be.
Or is it August the hottest time of the year? No.
Well, May through August tends to be pretty hot. We're in the wet season now. It hasn't started raining here yet, though. But everybody, I keep seeing in different groups, I keep saying May is the hottest month. If you can survive May, you can survive any month. There's been jokes about like memes where like the sun is right here, like the whole picture, and been like summer Merida, and it has. There's been some days, and even though it's been like 104 Fahrenheit, like I think that's what 28 or 27 Celsius. It feels really hot because of the humidity.
Like yesterday was 102 in Merida, and it was 94% humidity.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is that the humidity, you're not fucking around with that humidity. It's literally in the 90%.
So I was laughing because I was asking around. Like I said, I was calling, hey, Alexa, yesterday. And after I said, I was like, well, that's pretty hot. So then I said, Alexa, how hot is it what's the weather like in San Francisco? And they said, what's the humidity in San Francisco? And the humidity in San Francisco currently yesterday was 82%. And I said, oh. And I'm like, what's the weather like in San Francisco right now? It's like cold and rainy. I was like, oh.
So that's humidity.
You feel it different.
Yeah. So with cold and humidity makes it feel it's like mist or fog or something like that. Hot and humidity, So Thursday, when I was running errands before I went to the house, by the time I got back to the Airbnb before I went to the house, I was just so hot, and I was like, today was a hard minute a day for me. And I was only out for maybe an hour,
Yeah.
45 minutes tops, and it really kicked my butt. So I went straight to the pool, then took a shower, then got myself ready to go to the house in the evening. So the breeze out there, like breeze at night is pretty cool usually. Like it cools down
Okay.
quite a bit, which is really nice. But
All
in
right.
my neighborhood, when the breeze was had a chill to it, which was really nice because I was
Mm.
still pretty hot. And so after a couple hours of doing stuff around the house and work, and the landlord came over and did a couple things up until about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. After she left, I went into the pool. Butt naked swimming in the pool.
It's the best, ain't it?
Yeah, I was really excited. I was still nervous because even though the walls are like 20 feet high, I was just like, I could hear the football field that was not too far away. And I was just
Yeah.
like,
No, you're fine.
but no one can see. There's no way anybody could see. But back to the signing. So we're in there and I asked the question, and it seems like you can break your lease if you need to. And I just wanted to make it clear to her that, like, by no means is that an intention of mine.
No.
I am a foreigner and I don't have residency yet, so I want to make sure
And
that
you're
I ask
worried.
in advance,
Yeah.
And she said she loved how organized I was. I also brought my little, that purple and polka dot folder thingy I have that has all our stuff. She loves it. She's like, "You're very organized." She's like, "You're very organized."
Yes, I am.
I like it.
Uh-huh.
And so we finished through the process of reading back and forth and translating and stuff, and then asking the details, like any questions and stuff like that. And then came the money exchange. And so here's what is very different from the U.S. You sign the lease, everybody signs, the translator signs, you sign, the landlord signs, the real estate agent signs, and the lawyer signs. And so we were just going around signing.
Hi, internets. We're back.
Okay. And we're back. We had some technical difficulties. So just in case, because we don't know what this is going to look like, I'm going to go back and start from the part of the signing. So we were talking about the lease signing, like the questions that we had, like because I'm a foreigner, if I have to go, it looks like you can pretty much break the lease without any kind of legal aftermath issues. Is because they increase the deposit to take that deposit if they need it to cover the period of time that you've left the house vacant while they get it ready for the next person. So at worst, I'm out $1,000, I think, unless I can't get the whole deposit back because of like logistics. Then at worst, I'm out about 2,500, maybe.
Okay.
US, which is like LA.
Yeah.
I didn't get my full deposit back from my apartment in LA. I think my deposit was probably 2,900 and I got back like 1,200.
Did the
I got back 900 actually. I remember that, 900.
Did the landlord have any questions for you?
Not really. I mean,
okay.
they have a lot of things of like making sure that you don't use the house for anything other than residency. Like if you commit a crime in the house and it gets discovered, you void your lease. And if you leave anything behind, you kind of sacrifice that.
So hold on. Not saying that we're planning on a crime. But like, what type of crime? Like you don't.
It just said crime. It just said crime. Like, and so, is that smoking weed? I don't know. Is that like running a criminal organization outside of the house? Is it both of those? Is that the range?
So smoking weed is not illegal.
Okay, I don't know.
It is illegal if you do it in front of children anywhere.
Okay.
But buying and selling is illegal.
Cool. So yeah, like things like that. So it's like you could work from home in the house, but you can't start a business in the house.
Okay.
Unless you set up the thing like that. So here you can be next door to a house that is a business. So like there could be a law office next door inside a house that looks just like yours. But you have to set up your lease in advance to be like that. So if we wanted to have an in-home business, like where people would come in and out, Then
Okay.
you would sign your lease that way. But because we're saying we're just wanting to reside there and then work
And
from home
yeah.
for companies outside of our own, or whatever, that kind of stuff, so that's fine. But
Okay.
like if we were to like open a shop, we can't
Mhm.
physically have people coming in and out and treating the house like a business, because that's a
Okay.
different kind of thing. So yeah, there was more things like that. It was like you can't use the house for anything other. You can't sublet it. So I
Mhm.
actually, being concerned that they might misread something, I was like, well, when I do have to go back to the States to start my residency, I am going to have a visitor stay in the house and watch my cats. And she's like, no, that makes sense. That's a visitor. That's not a sublet. I was like, so I just want to make clear, like if I have someone there for a month, it's because I'm,
Mhm.
away or
Mhm.
something like that. And she's like, yeah, you just can't like go back to the States and rent it out to somebody for
Oh,
the
rent it
length
out
of,
to somebody else. Yeah. That
yeah,
makes
or I
sense.
can't use it like an Airbnb or anything
Right,
like
right,
that.
right, right, right.
Stuff like that, which all makes sense to me too,
Mhm.
you know. And then so when we signed, everybody signed. Tree and me signed, the translator signed as our representative in the room. The
Okay.
real estate agent signed, the landlord signed, and the lawyer signed. And then
Damn.
after
Okay.
that, this is where something is a lot different than what we're used to in the US, because cash is king in Mexico. Like a lot of things you pay straight cash. You don't write checks, you don't necessarily use an app. You can in some cases, but like there's not an app for me paying my rent or anything like that. I have to hand the cash to my landlord every month.
Oh.
Um, so what they do is they print out these receipts, these legal documents that say, we are renting, Tristan and Sharmane are renting this house at this address from this landlord who is the owner on this date every month. They paid 19,000 pesos. And then I signed, Tree signs, and then she signs, and then she kept them. So we signed one for every month of the year, of every month of the lease. And then
Mhm.
she took all of them but the one for May. So I now possess a receipt that shows that I paid 19,000 pesos for the month of May. That is pre-signed by me, Tristan, and the landlady. And then next month, when I hand her the cash, she's going to hand me that document for June. So each one was the exact same thing, except for it said May 3rd, June 3rd, July 3rd. So that's weird because you've just signed something that
Yeah.
says you've paid, and then it's in the possession of the person who will give it back to you as evidence that you paid after you've paid, versus us signing it the day we get our rent. And that's because it had to be witnessed by the lawyer.
It's just that
It
my
goes counter to like what
my
you,
Americanness and not
yes,
trusting landlord
yes,
kicked right in
it
there
does.
real hard.
And so
I'm
like
gonna have to work on that.
there, like I feel like I was more aware of what was going on the whole time because I have been engaging in the conversations, and I read the document in advance, where Tristan was just kind of like, I gave him the document to read, but he just
Mhm.
trusted me.
Right.
So he said, I want to, like when we were at the law office before everybody showed up, he said, I want to know what it says, but I don't want to read it. Like I want to just by osmosis already know
Osmosis
it.
from you, yeah.
And so he's like, do you have questions? And I told him the two questions that I had, and I had already prepped them with those questions. So they were ready to answer them when we got there. So yeah, like for me, I don't know how Tree felt about signing things, or if he even understood what he was signing. He just got a stack of papers, and then you sign, and you slid it over to the next person, and then you sign, and slid it over to the next
I
person. So
I wonder if there's any way of like negotiate, like if I pay 6 months in advance or in a chunk if you get a discount.
you probably could, and honestly, I wasn't prepared to do that, so I didn't even ask that question. But you could probably set it up that way with
Yeah.
some folks. And actually, I think some folks do require it, because I've seen some postings on a lot of these real estate sites that we were looking at to look
Mm-hmm.
for a home, where it would say like 6 months in advance
Mm.
required or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But whether or not the discount part, like I think it is possible that you can get a discount if you're willing to pay more in advance. So yeah, that was the process. So I had when I had the balance of my deposit to give her, I had so basically the money that I gave them last month to hold the property, they were counting as the payment for May. And then the deposit that I provided within the law office, which was 2 months worth of rent as a deposit, um, they're going to count that as just the deposit. So that's going to sit in the holding account until I leave, right? So they're counting that as deposit. And then I had a cat deposit of 9,500 pesos, which was it's about 500, so 500 and change. So that's for the cats. So I gave that. And then I had to pay for the lawyer fee, which I got it wrong. There was a miscommunication, well, not a miscommunication so much as a language issue for both of us. They told me 750 pesos. They meant 7,000 pesos, the equivalent of $350 US.
Okay. Okay.
So, and then for me, I translated that into $35. So we had that's where the five came from.
Okay. 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 Yeah.
But that was still, even though $350 US is a big chunk to us as Americans to be giving to a lawyer, in Mexico, a lot of people that I've seen in the group say, be careful because sometimes those lawyer fees are like 1,200, 2,000 US. So we got off light.
To me, to even retain a lawyer, it's 5,000.
Right. So it's pretty crazy. And so I handed all that money over in the room, sign all the things. And then she gave me back what was the receipt for the month of May.
Did you get a receipt for the cat deposit?
Well, that was what I kept asking. I'm like, what about the proof of the other deposits? They made me turn the May receipt over and write down the deposit amount that I put on there. And I was like, do you want to sign it? And she was like, no, because you already have it. It's already proof that you've given it. So it's basically like that it was witnessed physically by
the lawyer, and it was signed on the piece of paper. Okay.
It's so creepy when you're not used to it because you're
handing
piles of cash. Like I had a stack of cash this big.
We're also used to the system fucking us over.
Right. And so you're constantly
even if you're trying to play by the rules.
Right. And it doesn't mean that there isn't corruption here. There absolutely could be, but
there are assholes everywhere.
Right. But in this case, like I think I got as good a landlord as I can get because she showed up the next day on my clock to try to help me with the internet and stuff like that. You know, like she can't come into the house anymore. And I guess they don't keep a master key. So I'm the one with the master key. And so she would even ask permission. It was so crazy because she'd be like, can I use the bathroom? And I'm like, yeah, like, of course. And she's like, it's your home now. I can't just use it. She kept apologizing because after we signed the lease, we all went to the house together, minus the lawyer, and did like a look through. And her mother was there, like doing some final cleaning. But by the time we got there, mother was watching TV.
That's lovely.
We're doing like a walkthrough, and then every so often the landlord would be like, "Mama," and it would be like there was like soap in the bathroom still, or there was a pizza in the fridge, and she's like, "Mama," and then she kept apologizing to me that they had left stuff in the house, and I was like, "It's fine," but I wasn't really thinking of the fact that I was taking possession
of the pizza
in that moment. Of the pizza. She was like apologizing for using the house, even though officially, because officially it was now mine to use. And so she was apologizing that it wasn't ready immediately because Mama was watching TV. And so like, yeah, we found like soap. We found like drinks and things like that. And she just kept apologizing and stuff. So they packed up a bag to get all that stuff out of there.
That's funny.
And
how is the process?
I would say
how frustrating.
I would say the most frustrating aspect of it is that there is a language and a translation barrier that's happening. So for those of you who are thinking of doing this, who have time to learn Spanish before you get here, that I would still say have a translator because the lawyer talk and stuff like that. But like that is a weird thing to be sitting in a law office while people are speaking in a different language and you're just waiting for someone to tell you
What to do.
what to do. That is a little nerve-wracking, but it wasn't crazy stressful. I
Okay.
was messaging you a couple times when I was in the room.
Right, you were.
But like it was more of just like sometimes it was like I need this thought to get out so that you also had the information so that I didn't forget to tell you later. So that, part of that was that. And then, of course, we had the money stuff, and it was just like in the moment, there were a few moments where you're just like, I'm about to sign a document in a language I don't
I don't
speak
know.
yet.
In a place that is not my homeland.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just like that's when things start to get really real. But I would say if it felt less like I'll put it like this: in LA, our credit was so bad by the time we moved to LA and stuff like that. We're sitting in the room basically waiting. We've already secured, we've already put a deposit down, but we were sitting in the room waiting for final approval. And at any moment they could have told us they weren't going to rent to us. And it was just stressful to be sitting there waiting for that. That kind of stress was not present in this moment. The stress I was feeling had more to do with the translation thing. But it
More
was
of a
like
frustration on your part of not being
not being, yeah,
more
more fluent, yeah.
fluent.
And
Yeah.
like there were a few things I understood and I was impressed with myself. Like there was an explanation that Jose, the real estate agent, was explaining about the cat deposit. And I was nodding through it, and then the translator looked at me and I was like, yeah, I think I got most of that, like so there was some that I was getting,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a lot that I would not have been able to discern without the support of the translator.
Going from here
Mm-hmm.
to there, how hard was it, or was it easy to find a place
Yeah, it really was. So I started
comparably to us? That's what
yeah,
I'm trying to
because
say.
I'll put it like this, like, okay, when I moved to Austin back in 2005,
Okay.
I had a place that I set up in advance, paid a deposit from Sacramento when I, couldn't look at it in advance. I only had pictures, blah, 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 blah. Then we drove up and I was like, this is a ghetto ass place. And grew up in a ghetto. I'm not trying to go back. So I broke the lease before we signed it. Basically, I basically sacrificed the deposit
Yeah.
because I had arranged, we had like a pre-agreement for
Yeah.
this apartment. And when I got there, I was like, this doesn't even look like the photos. It's like
Mm-hmm.
scary. I don't want to live here. So we went to a hotel that night, which we just drove up to a hotel that was nearby and checked in that night. And then I started getting on the internet and looking for a place. I found a place that was willing to let me have an appointment in the morning. We drove to the place. We liked it. We put a deposit down. Boom, boom, boom. That was 2005. For Boston, for Porterville, and for LA, it was all this advanced setup to even get things going. Like I actually in Massachusetts, I had to fly out like 2 months early, because that's when we were trying to figure out if we could even afford to go there.
Forward to go to Massachusetts.
And
Yeah.
we found a place that would be willing to take our cats and all this other kind of stuff. And we got to see it in advance, but it was still a stressful process because I was doing that through Craigslist. LA, I kept getting denied, 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 denied. And then I found one place who was willing to say yes, but I still had to sit in that room and wait for them to give us final approval.
So, okay.
So that's how it's all been stressful. And the same thing, like I set up a house in Houston before I even got there, sight unseen, except for photos. And I just had to trust that it was going to be okay. And then if I didn't, I wasn't going to have the money to pull out. I was just going to be committed. Here, I started messaging Vera and I gave her listings. So you and I were looking online and we were pulling listings and we were sending them. I was sending them over to her and I'd say what I liked about the listing. This neighborhood, this internet speed, this design, blah, blah, blah. And so she ended up asking me, what's my priority list? And I said, I need them to be okay with me having 4 cats, me being a foreigner, and I need to be able to have strong internet. Now that's where the disconnect is because she said, well, the internet is up to what you pay for. But what it actually is you need to know in advance if the neighborhood can sustain you coming in and adding internet, because you might end up moving to a street that has no ports available. And then that's it. You're just done. So you actually kind of need, that's the harder thing. You need to do reconnaissance in the neighborhood before you actually sign your lease, which I'm learning after the fact. but the process to find a place. So once we started looking in earnest and actually starting sending her stuff, it took a day or two until she sent me a listing, and she said, I'm only going to send you one listing. If you don't like it, we can start looking around again.
Okay.
But her goal was nail the major things
Mm.
and then go from there.
Okay.
So really, once we got there, it was a place that had 3 bedrooms. I wanted at least 2, but 3 would be ideal. I wanted at least 2 bathrooms, but 3 would be ideal because a bathroom in every room. And a lot of the houses here either have the same amount of bathrooms as bedrooms, or it has
more.
1 plus
Mhm.
for guests.
Mhm.
I needed to be okay with the cats. I needed a pool, and I needed to be okay to rent to foreigners. She with a modern design, because Tristan liked modern over the colonial design. Okay, fine. And that's what she did. She fucking nailed it. Her first listing was 3 bedroom, 3 bath house with a modern design, open concept, had a pool,
And
was
under budget.
and under budget, and was private. And so the worst, in quotations, worst thing is that internet is going to be a bit of a struggle. I can do plug and play internet, or I can get an installed internet at only 50 megabytes. Um,
Mm.
you know,
Live and
so
learn.
live and learn, but I'm already in the house, so it is what it is. And I don't want to break the lease because of internet at the
Mm.
moment, unless I absolutely
Well,
have to.
and 50, as Jeff put it, is you can do the
Should be able
streaming,
to
you
do
can
it.
work, you can this and that, whatever. 5, no.
Yeah.
But he, that other thing that you got, that 150, he's like, that is a great.
Yeah.
If we can get it to work.
Yeah, I can get it to work. And that was my bad. I broke it. So I'll try to get that fixed.
And that'll be next episode, guys. The adventures of internets.
Yeah, I'll do a whole episode on internet because it's been a kerfuffle.
Mm.
So yeah, once we signed everything, handed over the money, they counted it in front of us. Like there was also a money counter there if they like a kind of thing if they wanted to, but she just hand counted it.
Yeah.
Everybody signed things. I got my document. We answered some final questions, and then we had to sit and wait while the lawyer took the documents to get approved by the other lawyers, I guess. I don't know. So it took like another 15 or 20 minutes or so. And then they came back with the official documents. They basically showed us the official documents and then said, here's how it works in Mexico. Leases have to go through the government. And and it takes about 30 days. So I can't walk away with a copy, like a certified copy of the lease. I could get a photocopy of it, but it would mean nothing to the government. It would mean nothing to anybody. And so I basically have to wait until the certified lease comes back from the Mexican government before I can set up services in my name. So if I need services set up in advance of that, I have to see if the landlord is willing to set it up in her name and then pay her accordingly, like I will do for trash and electricity and stuff like that. And she has said she's willing to do that. She said whichever works.
Right.
So.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Okay.
I am taking questions.
And I don't know if you have an answer, but I'm gonna have a question. What happens chronically in the States is that you sign a lease, okay, and then the landlord sells the house underneath you.
Oof.
Right? And then they say you have to get out by certain such and such time. Right? Is there some sort of protection? Do you know?
I don't know.
And what if she wants to evict you or something like that? Do we know any of those type of
there was a thing in there that said that the term is for the year and that as long as your payments are current, the place is yours. She can't
kick you out. Okay.
But I don't know if that also translates into if she happens to sell the house from under. Like I didn't even really know that was a thing that happened, so I don't know.
Yeah. Like it's chronic. They go, I want you out by, even though you sign a lease for a year, they say, okay, I'm giving you 30 days. But some states have, if they have a signed lease, you have to give them 2 months or something like that to vacate the promise. I have no idea if there's something like that in Mexico.
See, in Massachusetts, one of my knitting group people had a house that she was trying to evict the tenants for because they had destroyed it in the time that they were there. And then from the time they filed the eviction papers, the people claimed squatters' rights. Yeah. And the government upheld the squatters' rights. And so they basically said that the conditions were no longer livable and required the landlord to fix up the house, even though the destruction happened from the tenants, and that the tenants didn't have to leave until
It was
they're,
fixed.
yeah. So that I remember that sounding crazy because why
Yeah.
would the government uphold that? Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have any experience with the houses being sold out from under, and so I don't know how how that would happen here in Mexico. But it feels like I have as stable an agreement as
Mhm.
there is here. And we went through the law office, and it's going to go through the
Yeah.
Mexican government, so it has to go, to like the capital basically for
Okay.
sign off, and then it comes back with the seal and everything like that. So in the meantime, I think after I figure out the internet thing with the plug and play ones, if I can get that to be stable, I think I still want to get the wall unit installed,
I mhm.
and I will ask her if she
Okay.
was be willing to take that on, and I pay for it. Because even when she went, like she was spending time with me in the apartment, we were trying to work on the internet thing. She had a modem. She's like, I'm gonna go take it to the place and get it activated, and I'll come back. So she went and did that, and then she texted me. She goes, "They have a plan on this portable device up to 150 mega. Do you want that?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And she said, "It's $4.99 a month. Can you do that?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And then they didn't have an activation fee. It was just the $4.99 for the first month. It is a 12-month contract, but she's like, "You just have to pay every month." And then she sent me the way to get logged in. I couldn't get logged into it though, so I'm gonna have to ask her um, about
This
getting it set
I
up.
kind of like this adventure, but I kind of like this also not happening to me.
I mean, I am kind of guinea pigging it and stuff,
That's what
and
I
like for
yeah.
everything that I learned, and maybe there's a course that we can create in this as I'm learning it.
Yeah.
But I think it'll make your transition here a lot smoother. Me having had the experiences I've had, and I'll
Mhm.
say this: nothing has been so crazy or uncomfortable that I'm just like, oh fuck, what did I do?
Right. That's
I'm
good.
not feeling like that at all. It's more
And
of like learning a different system, and also just like telling my American brain to chill the fuck out.
and would you recommend the people that you worked with their services to other people?
Yes. So
Okay, awesome.
far, everybody that I worked with was is very nice, attentive. They respond to messages really quickly. Um,
And do we have their permission to give their information down below?
I have not asked any of them, but I like with Vera, the person who's translating for me. I told her I know people who want to come too, and I'm going to be sending you their information. She's like, yes, send them all to
Okay.
me. Um, so, and she actually wants to be friends too. She's like, we're both new here. Why don't we do some
Yeah.
tourist stuff together? Like, because her sister lives here and she can't get her sister to take her anywhere because her sister's like, I've been living here. I don't do the
I live
tourist shit.
here.
And I
Yeah.
was like, I'll do the tourist shit with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and so she's traveling right now, but when she comes back, because she's in the same position that we're in, she is not from Mexico. She's from Colombia, but she lived in Canada. So she's actually a Canadian citizen.
Hmm.
So her 180 days is up this week. So she's going back. I think she's actually going to the States to do it. Because you just have to go to a Mexican consulate. So
Mm.
actually, I might not have to go back to the US. I could maybe just cross a closer border
Okay.
if I can get an appointment with a consulate. Some people have said that that's possible.
Okay.
Maybe I'll go to
Yeah,
Belize.
go. That would be awesome.
Look at your eye. You just stopped
I
dead in your, because that's
I
where I
would
want to go. That's
a
the next place
Belize
I
would
want to
be.
go.
I mean, I know they're going through. Well, we all are, but it that would be awesome.
Plus,
But
I speak English at Belize.
I'm still planning on coming in September. So
What I would
um,
like to try to do is meet somebody that has a cat sitting service or a house sitting service or something like that.
yeah.
Have them come and take over the cats like a couple weeks before you're planning on being here,
Mm.
and so that it bridges the gap so I can start the process. And then by the time you come and take over the house, I'm either
Mhm.
back or coming back,
Okay.
so that I spend some time with you too.
Yeah.
So I still have some time to try to plan that out. But I mean, we've already been here a month and a week,
Yeah.
a month and 2 weeks,
Hmm.
almost. Um, So like time will fly, and
Oh
we
yeah.
need to be ready to
Right.
do this. And then what, like, so Vera was recommending, she's like, are you going to go to Houston for the thing? I'm like, we're trying to figure out where we could go, because we could go to Arizona because we could have our friends, we can stay at their place, or we can go to Austin because we have friends too, or whatever. Uh but she's like, but the flights might be so expensive. She's like, it's only $180 to fly from Cancun to Florida. And I'm like, yeah, I've actually heard a lot of people prefer the Florida consulate, Miami consulate.
But
But I'm
it's
like,
Florida.
that's Florida. And I'm like, I don't
And
fucking want to go to Florida,
and Florida has done lost its mind if it
And
hadn't
try
in
to
the
be
first place.
brown and like go through customs,
And
even with an American
queer? No,
basket. Yeah.
man.
So I don't know about that, but I'm going to start researching like what are the fastest turnaround consulates, and see, see what it is. But yeah, so that's where we're at now. We have the lease. We have a month left in the current Airbnb because I had set it up for two months just to make sure. And it was too late to cancel and get a refund, so I'm just going to stick it out here. But every few days, I'm going to go back to the place and bring some more of our stuff and start to set up there until the internet is more stable, and then we'll spend more time there a little bit. But one thing that I'm realizing, I know that some people caution about buying washer machines because the water is hard here. I don't think I'm going to want to go do the whole, not having a car and do the whole laundromat thing. So I think I'm probably going to have to go ahead and bite that bullet.
Okay, well, we'll go through that process, and it'll be interesting when we do our process, because we were sent, we were staying in Central,
yeah.
And Jeff and I, even though it's definitely more money to rent in Central, that is our preferred spot. But
it makes more sense too, because what I'm learning now, especially with the internet, is that what it's called. I forget the term. It's like prophetical something. I'll look it up because I know where it's at. There's a term for the city proper. Basically, that's where you're going to have internet. No trouble. You can get 1,000 megabytes if you want. So if you want to still try to find a quieter neighborhood within Central, you just go on the outer skirts of Central. You're still within the good internet range, but you don't necessarily have to deal with like the clubs or this or that or whatever. So my neighborhood is fairly quiet, but there is a football practice field close by. I can hear them.
Yeah, but
it's not so bad. And I hope that even though my room that's going to be my studio room faces closer to where that is, it won't be.
We'll put some stuff on the walls and things.
Yeah, and I do need to kind of soundproof it a little bit too. But yeah. My biggest challenge with my house, besides the internet, is that the Google Maps and Uber does not recognize my address.
Right.
It keeps putting blocks and blocks away. So,
but that was kind of common. I remember even.
Yeah, because even in Central, when we got dropped off in front of at the hamburger place, we actually were a couple blocks away. So.
Yeah. It's a little wonky, but we're getting to know it. So the adventure is still happening, but you are happy and plotting ahead. Yeah. What is so our next is, conquering the internets. Anything else on the agenda?
Internet, and I think figuring out laundry, especially given that Uber struggles so much with transport and stuff like that. I think that's going to be my next big challenge. So maybe that might be my next episode or the episode after, depending on how far I get in that time. But other than that, we can also be talking about non-Mexico things and interlacing it with Mexico adventures.
Well, and let's also look into, there are companies that will pick up your laundry and deliver it to you. So maybe that's also an option as well.
Yeah, I've tried to. It's the hardest thing is researching in Spanish, because it's hard to research it in English. So that's where my barrier. That's really where my barrier is. And I love a fluff and fold service. When I lived in LA, until it was too expensive to keep it going, especially when I lived there temporarily when I worked on film sets, I fluff and folded service all the time. I'd have to drop it off usually, but I'm getting it back folded and stuff like that. So that'd be great. The other thing is you can actually hire someone, a housekeeper, and that can be part of their
Duties to
responsibility.
drop it off.
If,
Okay.
yeah. So there is things like that that we might look into. But with things like that, that kind of stuff might add up, and it might end up making living expenses be a little bit more
The
than
same.
US. But since we are saving money on the rent,
well, I mean, you're getting it. You've been living into one bedroom or studios for
for a
quite
while,
some time,
yeah,
for a lot more money than what you're paying
for a
now.
lot more money, yeah. Like so, my rent here in Merida, Mexico, compared to my with a 3 bedroom, 3 bath house with a pool, compared to my rent in Los Angeles for a 750 square foot 1 bedroom apartment, um, I was paying $2,224 a month.
Mm-hmm.
In LA. I am paying about $1,000 here. So depending on what the exchange rate is, sometimes it's 9,999, sometimes it's 1,001.
Yeah.
Like so somewhere around $1,000 a month in comparison to. And then in Houston, I was paying about $1,300 a month for a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, old ass
cockroach was vested.
Yeah.
And the landlord that never fixed anything.
And I didn't get my deposit back because they said they had more things to repair than my deposit covered. And I was like, well, to be fair, the house was not cleaned when we got it. The cockroaches and a lot of the things we requested never got repaired. So I wasn't happy that they had raised.
They're not going to repair shit. They're just going to raise the rent. And
I think they're going to make it a luxury spot so that they can, because they're gentrifying that area so much.
That is true. There
were other houses around the corner that had gone up to like, $2,000 a month, and I was paying $1,300 a month. So I think that's what they're going to do. They'll fix it up just enough for there to be a $2,000 rent on that house.
Fine.
Yeah. And like, my car got damaged because of the driveway. You remember the pitted driveway and stuff like that?
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just so relieved to be done with that and not have to deal with it. I'm in a fairly new construction. It's only about a 5-year-old house. Mm-hmm. It's clean. It's nice.
Your landlord sounds like a peach.
She sounds really great, or she's very nice, and she's very sweet. She's kind of learning English too, so we're both kind of trying to answer each other in both languages. And to be fair, like I've noticed, I understand enough to know what word she's looking for in English sometimes, and vice versa. So we've been working it out a little bit. So I think I made a good choice. Even though I only had the one choice, like I could have just said no and we could have looked somewhere else. But yeah, it's exciting. It is huge though. I feel like it's definitely more space than we need. But like logistically, it will be very helpful. So like we have a whole room that will be good for when you want to come and visit if you don't want to stay somewhere else,
Right.
I can set up a desk and stuff in there so that Jeff can work. I think it'll be good. And given that we're homebodies anyway, I'm like playing with the idea of calling it the compound because the walls, the fences.
Yeah, I know.
High.
I know.
There's so much privacy. Like
You've been in my backyard. But I have 10-foot fences, and I love it. Yeah. I love it. And I'm in the central of town and I have my own space.
And you have some privacy. Yeah.
And it made me really want a courtyard, that's why I really love the way that the Mexican people,
that actually reminds me of something. On an earlier episode when we were talking about like my cross the way neighbor here at the Airbnb and how she kind of has half a house type of thing. And she's living she sleeps outside essentially, like on the hammock and things. I want to take that back a little bit because while it does look like a half crumbled exterior, it doesn't seem actually much different probably than if she had a solid house with a courtyard in the middle that's open to the elements, like a lot of the places we saw when we were together. Yep. So again, readjusting our American mindset, I was like, it's just like her courtyard's just in the front of her house.
That's it.
And she's choosing because it's got an enclosed space. So she's either choosing to sleep outside on the hammock, which evidently is very common here. Because even my landlord, when she was showing me my hammock hooks, she was like, yeah, you can sleep here all summer. And I was like, oh yeah. So you could just like.
You're going to have, oh, that's going to be another thing. Did you sleep in the hammock?
I didn't. So my problem is, while I did learn how to tie it, I couldn't find the right height. So I kept retying and retying. So it was either too low or too high. So I haven't found it. It turns
That's
out
the right.
the hammock I bought is very forgiving, very flexible. So it was
Oh,
bringing us, because Karin and I were both trying to do it. It kept lowering us to the ground. So I have to keep fiddling until I get it to the right height, and then I'll be able to try it
all
out.
right.
But so yeah, I wasn't successful my first night with the hammock, but I'm close.
That'll be a little mini video. You'll be swinging in it.
I should have put the camera out while I was trying to tie it up, but that was a rough day for me. That
Don't
first
worry
day
about
in
it.
there was just a rough day. And again, it wasn't the most stressful day on the planet. It was just it was so hot
Oh, I get it.
that every little frustration
Oh, I know. Everything
was
becomes
way
huge.
bigger.
I'm going to
Yeah.
hurt somebody.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. Oh, I'm glad you're on your new adventure. Anything else you want to?
No, I think this is just one of the steps. So for any of our Maney and Merida episodes, I might just kind of focus on one major aspect of the process, and this is getting into the house. I'll definitely update once I get in, and we'll talk about the internet, of course, and stuff like that too. But and pool maintenance, I think, will be interesting because I've never had to have someone come and clean my pool. I suppose
Right.
I could learn how to do it myself too, but I don't think I'll be consistent with that. So I might as well get someone who already knows how to do it.
Jeff will be your pool boy. He loves doing the pool.
Really? Well, then I'll save some money during the
when he comes to visit. That's right. And we'll get him a little cabana boy outfit.
Yeah, a little cabana boy outfit. Excellent. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's I'm glad that we've done this. I wouldn't take it back. I definitely want to give it at least a full year before I decide do I want to stay here or do I want to go somewhere else or something like that. But I'll tell you, it did not take the full 6 weeks for me to say I just can't imagine ever wanting to go back to the States again for long term. I could see, going back for a month at a time and visiting family or friends or whatever. But I mean, it is lonely a little because it's just me and Tree,
we'll make friends.
But I'm homebody anyway. It's not like I had a robust friend life in Houston. Yeah. I had 3 people that I hung out with in Houston. Yeah. So give me a little bit. I'll meet those 3 people.
Right. I'm a gamer. So the people that I prefer to hang out with are online. So how is this any different? And and then after this pandemic, I'm not really interested in hanging out with most Americans in the real life anyway. So I don't think it'll be that much, but I am really looking forward to getting to I find it interesting that it didn't even take you 6 weeks to be I can't, because news, let's see, today is the 6th of May that we're filming. That means that this goes out next week or the week after that.
Next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday.
So that means then, in the middle of the night, your last state you were in passed in the dead of the night, the one that if any child is transgender or is someone thinks they're transgender or they're getting anything like that, the state now has the right to remove your child from your home.
Yeah. But yeah, the more and more that these types of things are being passed, what's happening in Texas, Tennessee, and Florida in particular, is so scary. And I definitely don't want to live in a state that would uphold that type of stuff. But not that California doesn't have its problems.
There's no perfect place.
But also California is just too expensive to live right now. And to be frank, I don't really have family anymore, I, over time, either family squabbles or other things have grown us apart. And the politics of things have definitely separated me from my in-law family, So family's not a motivation to come back. yes, there's friendships, but like literally none of us are seeing each other in person right now anyway. So like we
No.
can keep up,
Right.
like I'll FaceTime, whatever.
Right.
And
You're going to come back and vote. That's it.
maybe at this point, like now I don't even feel, I know that was part of it. Maybe we could do an episode about that next time or something, like the responsibility of maintaining citizenship for the purposes of that. But I mean, I feel like it's crashing and burning. I don't even know that I can necessarily vote responsibly in the state that is my last state of residence. I can vote and it won't
Gerrymander. Yeah.
Especially the neighborhood that I lived in. I was in a red line neighborhood, so there was a lot of stuff. So there's some thoughts. I've been thinking about things and trying to avoid thinking about things and stuff like that too. Because I don't know where this living abroad thing will take me beyond confirming some suspicions that I was having before we left, which is I don't want to live in the States. I don't think that every country or any country that I live in is going to be perfect. I do think it's unfair that I may benefit from American status here in ways that maybe some local Mexicans will not. In particular, I'm living in the state of the Yucatan. The Yucatan is looked down upon by a lot of Mexico because they still have very strong Maya ties. Because the people are darker skinned, because the language that, like, if you have a Yucatec accent,
that's too bad.
In other parts of Mexico, people are looked down on and stuff like that. So it is possible that I could benefit more in some cases because of my American status here than some areas. I mean, depending on what states people are in and stuff like that. Those are things I wouldn't have really necessarily known unless I was around here and hearing people talking about it.
About it.
That being said, like, I just need a place that I can live and afford to live where most of my time is spent at home. And I think I have found that fortress or that compound, right now, is that as I transition into that home, I may not need much outside in the world and I may want to stay there forever, or I'll get bored and I'll want to go, or I'll want to hear my language again. Every now and then you hear English and you're like, oh, English, it's kind of weird. One of the funny things I will say, and then we'll leave on this, is that when you're in Ubers, the pop music stations that are play a whole bunch of American music, but none of the songs are from the same genres and none of them would be played on the same station in the US. Right. So you'll go from like a Christmas pop song to a country Western song to a ints right after that. It's so funny because like none of the music makes any sense to play on one station and they don't censor.
Oh,
I did not realize how I knew America was super censored. I knew it. Like here in the brain, I understood it. But we were driving down the street in one of the Ubers and the song was playing and it was talking about eating pussy and Tristan and I just fell out laughing. And then even like Beyonce's song, like "We Gonna Fuck Up the Night," that was playing. There's no bleeping. It's just the original track as the artist intended. So things like that, like there's things I'm willing to sacrifice from America to live in a place that just like
leaves you the fuck alone.
For the most part, leaves you the fuck alone. I mean, look, I'm a foreigner who's lived in an Airbnb for 6 weeks and not having issues.
Microaggressions, no.
I mean, the craziest thing that's happening is like, see, that's just making this thing longer. But the other day we went for a walk and we stopped off at a torta stand, and we didn't realize the guy was deaf. He was a lip reader. So he would you could tell that the speech was a little bit different, but not knowing people's accents here, I couldn't tell if that was an accent thing but after he said he was hard of hearing, I was like, oh, okay, now I understand what was happening with his voice. So this is what was funny. He starts speaking to us. I turned to Tristan to explain. He's saying that there's either meat or chicken in the sandwich, which I think Tristan was getting, but he was speaking so fast that Tristan had that face like, and it was all words that I know Tristan knew, but I think the speed. And so I was saying, like, you can get either chicken or you can get pork and beef together on the sandwich or whatever, and you can get cheese or not cheese, or and it'll have onions. So I think because the guy was seeing me look at him and then talk to Tristan, he kept making eye contact and speaking Spanish to me, and then he would nod at Tristan. And my Spanish is so terrible too that Tristan was like, it's funny because he keeps trying to speak English to Tristan and trying to speak Spanish to me. And I was like, he's got to know that I can't speak Spanish. Like I know my Spanish is terrible. And then like he came back and forth serving us different things. And then at one point he said, I can't hear, so I need to read your lips. And we're like, oh. And so because he was asking us where we are and he couldn't see Tristan's mouth. So then he looked at me and he was saying that he was deaf and stuff like that. And so we're like, oh, okay. So I said that we were from the US and that we speak English and stuff like that. He continued to speak Spanish to me and English to Tristan. So up until that point, he thought I was Mexican. And then after that, we're like, oh, he's under the impression I'm translating for you because I'm turning to you to talk.
I mean, you technically are. I mean,
kind of. Or sometimes I was just asking him, do you want a sandwich? But it may have looked like I was translating. So he was like, where are you from? And I was like, California, United States. And he goes, where is he from? I was like, California, United States. And he's just like,
wait, that's
he thought he was missing something.
No, you're like, no, you're perfectly fine.
So up until then, Tristan and I are having a conversation about how the guy thinks I'm Mexican and thinks he's American. And then after him explaining he was deaf, it was like, oh, he just thinks I'm translating. So he doesn't, like it's probably a combo. He probably thought I was Mexican and he wasn't picking up that my Spanish was bad because he can't hear what I sound like.
How bad you're only watching your word. Ah, that's so cute though.
So that was a fun little thing that happened earlier this week.
Well, I love it. Well, I'm glad that everything.
I felt like I was like, damn, he really.
I'm feeling official. Yeah, I'm getting this shit. Yeah. You're like, oh.
Oh, actually, he was deaf, and so
that's all right.
I wasn't butchering it audibly for him. But
you weren't affronting his ears. Well, thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk again. I'm glad for this process. I heart you. I miss you. I can't wait to see you again.
Yeah, me too.
And
there's things where I'm trying to like not experience because I want it to
experience anything you want. It'll be all different things when we're there. It'll be perfectly fine.
That's true.
Okay.
So hopefully later in the summer, I will start having more adventures. I think I'm going to take Vera up on the offer to be tourists together. And so,
go to the beach.
That might be one of my, well, that's the other thing. She's already invited us to stay at her parents' house in Progreso.
Bye.
But that's the other thing. Like, there's such crazy welcomingness. They're just like, come stay at my house.
Bye. Okay. I would like footage. Bye. Okay. The internet needs footage. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, that might be my friend. Like, listen, I'm only going to probably get 1 to 2 friends while I'm out here anyway, because I keep a small.
That's it. That's all I'm allowing myself. Tres. Okay. Tres amigos.
I mean, who knows? But yeah.
All right. Well, are you waxed?
I am not. I ain't been waxed in a long time. But hopefully I'll find there is a spa nearby from my new place. So
we got to do a spa.
Because things have been
little
maintained for
tropical down there. Okay, got it. All right. So are you at least vaxxed?
I am vaxxed. I got my
And
cards.
now are you unpacked?
I am not unpacked. I am still half in and half out, and I probably won't be unpacked until June.
Sounds good to me. All right. Well, I love you guys. Peace. Get
Bye.
out of here. Bye.
Queer and Far is a Main Hustle Media podcast, produced and edited by Sharmane Fury. Co-hosted by Sharmane Fury, aka The Blazing Blurred, and Shae Nanigans. Music is Big Band Savage Jazz by Pine Groove. If you like what you've heard on Queer and Far, please subscribe, rate, and review on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Main Hustle Media. Turn your side hustle into your main hustle.